There we go. Delete that email.
Hi,
How are you? Yeah.
good. How are you guys?
Good. You look like you're all bundled up.
Yeah, I am. Snow, a lot of snow. Is it snowy there?
It's not so much here, but from my house, it was pretty snowy.
Sounds like we're having some technical
It was
difficulties.
nice to see Coco make a guest appearance.
Yes, yeah, I was driving side. She turned 1 yesterday, so
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
isn't that crazy?
You have to put your stuff back on the TV. Because you're going through my computer. Yeah. So it's right there. And we want to. The door.
David.
Morning.
David.
Morning, David.
How are you, Stacy?
Good.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
Sarah.
I'll need to call.
Oh, this person?
All right, I am on and listening. I'm just going to mute and stop my video for now until you guys need me.
how's the weather up there?
7-6.
David just asked about the weather. Oh, it's not too bad yet, but I think it's headed downhill.
All right, so we got to keep things rolling.
I'm happy to do that. I'll second that.
Portland is very, very messy already.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was nasty where I was too.
Really not bad down here.
I mean, let's hold the next one down there. That's what I think.
Low 80s today.
We're worried about all the glare you have to put up with, David.
It's pretty bad, you're right.
I'll refrain from using any hand signals.
Is Commissioner Leclerc coming?
I believe so.
Yeah, it's with her.
So she's
She's
logged.
wasn't
Oh,
she in
she's-
Portland?
She's in Portland and she's logging in right now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. I think one has to put on us. That's right. That's right.
So I'm just gonna have to. It's just. So here, I've got. Sure your notes are here.
Sarah, how are you?
Great. How are you?
All right.
Good
Hi,
morning.
Sarah.
Hi. Hey, everybody. Who's in person? Dennis?
Two old white guys. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You are kind of blending into the background.
Yes. It's the filter they put on. I even wore a blue shirt so that wouldn't happen.
It's the light.
We should get like a green screen and put something really cool behind us, you know.
Okay, weatherman. Well, I like your bookshelf. That was nice.
Thanks. My fancy pretend bookshelf. This was, you know, my background for, you know, all the years of COVID. My colleague said for Halloween, I should dress up, you know, just get a bookshelf like this and put it on just because this is how they saw me for 2 years.
Is
I
there
got
any?
my checkout time and behind me.
All right, we can get started. Let's start with item number 1, ratification of the minutes of January 30th, 2023, and welcome to the February 28th, 2023 meeting of the Ethics Commission.
I'll make a motion to approve those minutes.
I will make a motion to amend the minutes before we do that.
What did you catch?
On page 4 in the bottom paragraph, it says commission staff receives paperwork from about 200 MCEA, and I would add candidates. And in the next line, I would change the spelling of performed. It's now PRE, it should be PER.
Good eyes.
Yeah, good catches.
Yeah.
I'll happily withdraw my motion and second yours.
Okay. So since we're partly remote, we need to have a roll call vote. Oh, well, is there any discussion? Okay, so we'll have a roll call vote. Commissioner Newman,
Yes,
Commissioner Hastings,
Yes,
Commissioner Leclerc,
Yes,
Commissioner Marvin.
Yes.
And I'll vote yes too. I'll move that we approve the minutes as amended. Is there a second?
Second.
second,
Sorry. It's been moved and seconded. Will you approve the minutes as amended? Commissioner Newman,
yes,
Commissioner Hastings,
yes,
Commissioner Leclerc,
yes,
Commissioner Marvel.
Yes.
And I'll also vote yes. On to agenda item 2, it's a complaint against Robert Sezak. And are you here for that, man? Terrific. You could take the witness chair there.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I have to walk across the room. I'm missing some of my paperwork.
Oh,
So
be my guest.
I'll be right back.
Thank you.
Back.
Awesome. So what we usually do and what we'll do in this case is Mr. Wayne will give us kind of a background on what's going on with this issue, and then we'll give you a chance to tell us about it. And we'll allow anybody else who wants to speak about it to tell us more, and then we'll decide.
Okay,
Terrific. Mr. Wayne.
thank you. I wonder if oh, there, Mr. Sezak is being joined.
Oh, okay.
yeah, yeah.
Mr. Sezak, welcome. I think you're muted. There we go.
Morning.
Did I pronounce your name correctly?
Yes, you did.
Awesome. What we're gonna do is, I'll ask Mr. Wayne to kind of give us a factual background. And then we'll give the complainant a chance to tell us her side of the story, and then we'll do the same for you.
Thank you.
Sure. Mr. Wayne.
Great, thank you. So this is a complaint by State Representative Shelley Rudnicki against her general election opponent, Robert Sezak. And she's stating in the complaint that he paid a large amount of money to a vendor, Frame Media, for literature, but the literature was not sent into the district. And I think her complaint has a suggestion that maybe Frame Media used the money received from Mr. Sezak to influence races in other districts, but I don't want to overstate that, so she can elaborate on that if I'm right on that. So the way this works is that we are allowed to, at the staff level, to ask or, well, to conduct a preliminary investigation in order to give you some information for you to work with in deciding whether there might be a violation here and what further investigation might be necessary. So we asked for information from Frame Media and also from Mr. Sezak. And that was included in the materials that we distributed to you and are now posted on our website. I wonder if I could just take a second to describe the information from Frame Media, because I'm not sure if Representative Rudnicki had a chance to see it.
You bet.
Yeah, so Frame Media provided us a few different types of documents. They sent us 4 documents that are labeled postage statements. These are these ones right here. And I did a brief 10-minute phone conversation with one of the principals of the company. He said that the way these get generated is that his mail house hires a printing company called Journeyman Press in Newburyport, Massachusetts. The press does the printing and does some sort of processing of the literature in order to get the best postage rate. And when they do that, they enter the information into a software application of the Postal Service called the Business Customer Gateway. And then when they deliver the literature to the Postal Service enters more information into the software regarding their receipt of the literature. So this is, I'm not trying to vouch for this personally, I'm just trying to explain what was described to me.
Yep.
So as it was described to me, these 4 mailings were received by the U.S. Postal Facility in Bangor, Maine. And I want to acknowledge I made a factual error in some information I inserted into the staff memo. I said it was to Portland, but it was actually Bangor, according to the statement.
Yep. Thank you.
There are mailing dates that were entered by the Postal Service, September 30th, October 20th. And this is in the center, about 1/3 down, it says mailer's mailing date. So those are intended to represent the date on which they were mailed. There's numbers of pieces are recorded. So according to the statement, the Postal Service for each one of the 4 mailings received 2,250 pieces, and they received them in 2 trays of 2 physical trays containing the mailings. According to the gentleman from Frame Media, the information in the upper right-hand corner indicates the date and the time on when the Postal Service received the physical mailings. So, and then according to the gentleman from Frame Media, it also includes the initials. So if you look at the box in the upper right-hand corner, it says, from one of them, it says processed by TSS on September 30th, 2022 at 5:36 p.m. So according to Frame Media, this is intended to document that it was received by the Bangor Postal Service by someone with the initials TSS on September 30th at 5:36 p.m. So that's the only one I'm going to go into detail, but we also, just to describe the other information received by the commission to date, we received artwork, prints from Frame Media saying that this is what the literature actually looks like. They gave us 5 copies for each one of these, but I cut it down so that you only need to look at one. The 5 copies actually had names and addresses on them, but to protect the people's privacy, we redacted that for the public. Versions of these, we received invoices marking paid, which is not really a disputed issue that these payments were made, but that was included. And then from Mr. Sezak, we received a letter from him saying that every mailing he paid for was sent to voters in his district, and he provided 4 one-sided images of, I think 2 are duplicates. So I think we received one-sided images of 3 of his mailings, including the names and addresses of who he is representing received the mailings. So that all has been provided to you. Representative Rudnicki is here today to give you a better foundation for why she filed the complaint and what she's heard from people in her district.
Sure.
And I also should mention, in response to a conversation I had with Representative Rudnicki before my vacation last week, I knew one of her concerns was, does Mr. Sezak have email correspondence that typically is generated when someone is requesting campaign literature? There's a back and forth on often, about the content of the mailings and the look of the mailings. And he did send me about 10 emails yesterday to that effect, but his vendor had some objections about us making these public, so I didn't share them with you yesterday because there just was insufficient time to work that out.
Mhm.
But that is something that if you wanted to pursue this further, could be looked at. So that's all, our job as staff is to sort of offer you a recommendation. Under our statute, that we're required to conduct an investigation if the reasons stated for the request show sufficient grounds for believing that a violation may have occurred. And so that's sort of the standard that we recommend you use to decide whether to do any more investigation. We absolutely are happy to do any more investigation if you want. It's really your decision.
Yep.
We're not sure that there's enough evidence at this point to do more, but we're happy to do it if that's the direction you want to head to.
We're not shy about doing it.
Right, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for the long
Of course.
opportunity. Yeah. Thanks.
Does any commissioners have questions for Mr. Wayne?
No.
No.
Representative?
Good morning, and thank you for having me here. And let me start by saying I don't have anything against Robert Sezak. I've known Robert for a lot of years, so I have nothing against him. But as I was going through this, because I have concerns about clean election money, I'm not saying I'm against it because my first term, I went clean election. So, but I do realize that that is taxpayer money, and it is very important that we are good stewards of taxpayer money, no matter what. So, I always have friends of mine that are on the other side of the aisle, some that are unenrolled as well as registered Democrats, hang on to any mailings that they get through the course of the election, because I mean, it's just good, process for me to see too what else is going out. And so they brought me some mailers that came out, but these actually are ones that came out on behalf of Robert. They, there was 2 from the Democrat Party and 1 from a school, some sort of a school PAC. I guess it's Citizens Who Support Maine Public Schools. So these 3 came out. My friends that got them, their names are on here, and they are very happy to talk to you if you want them to. I told her she didn't need to come down in this weather, that if you wanted to speak to her, she was happy by phone or Zoom if you did need to talk to her. But they hung on to them and they brought them to me, and we kept watching for these other things because, like a good candidate, I go through other people's ethics reports just to kind of see. And I kept seeing, I saw this stuff for free media, but nothing came out from Robert. Now, I will say that towards the end of the election, there was 1 piece of mailing that came out from Robert. I actually got it myself. And it was a postcard that was actually mailed through a local vendor in Waterville area. So, that one I spotted, I saw that, and I saw that on his ethics report, but this thing's from Frame Media. The people that are listed on this are, one's a Democrat, one's an unenrolled. And myself as a Republican. Plus, I will tell you, my son actually moved back this year and is staying with us temporarily. Is also, I believe, listed as an unenrolled, but didn't receive anything either. So I kept track of everything and didn't get anything. So I felt that as a good steward of, Maine taxpayer dollars, that I needed to bring this forward. And like I said, I have nothing against Robert personally. I just feel that, it is definitely something that needs to be looked into. And I did ask about the emails things, and I understand some of that is proprietary. And if you to look at it confidentially, I don't need to see it if you, but I do believe that there has always been some concern when there's a mail house involved in some of this stuff, because with clean election money, and it, we know you're not supposed to pool money like that for clean election. So, and that's what this kind of jumped at me as. So that's why I brought this forward. At the very least, it's something that we can take a look at, and that's why I did what I did. So, Thank you for hearing me out. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have for me.
Perfect. Any commissioners have questions for Representative Rudnicki? Yes, Commissioner Hasty.
Thank you, Representative. Based on the all this printed material from Frame Media and that we have been supplied, you've reviewed that, have you not?
I've reviewed it briefly, yes.
Are you now satisfied that these mailings were sent?
No, sir, I'm not.
You do not believe that these statements are, and this information is accurate?
I could go on my computer and print these myself. Honestly, we all know that. That's why I asked about emails going back and forth and proofs, because those are dated and time stamped, you know, through the email, and it's very difficult to change
So-
those dated and time.
So was it your suggestion that these postage statements and copies of mailers and bills from Frame are fabricated?
I think we need more information.
Thank you.
Do you have any evidence that they're fabricated?
No, sir, I do not. That's why I said more information with emails and dated timestamps are much, it's much easier for that than it is to take something else and print it. With, at least with the emails, I mean, I can go back into my emails and show you proofs of the ones that I did and proofs going back and forth. And that's, you know, that to me would be more of a proof than I could make up one of these and send it in to you and say that I sent it. You know, after the fact. That's why I suggested the email portion of that, because you have those proofs. You know, I'm sure you've run a campaign, you know that you do that. And well, depending on how long ago it was, whether you go back and forth like that, but
A long time ago.
but you do go back and forth and you have the emails, and that's actual, you know, physical documentation that is time and dated stamp that would be definitely more proof.
But it's probably easier to fabricate emails than this to fabricate.
Well, I honestly, I don't know. I'm not that technical savvy, but I actually would think that that would be a little less likely because of the dated and time stamped on emails going back and forth.
Sure. Commissioner Moore.
Representative, is the basis, is the core basis of your concern a perception at least, or a reality in your part, that people you know in the district did not receive mailings that they should have?
Yes, sir.
You're an experienced
Yes, sir.
candidate
Yes, sir.
and legislator.
Yes.
Have you used in any way, whether it's door to door or for mailings, any lists provided, for example, by a PAC of the party you represent?
I have used a variety of lists. Yes, sir.
Have you ever found, and the reason I'm asking this is I ran one time unsuccessfully and had a lot of good eye-opening experiences. And one of them was, without any bad intentions, how inaccurate those lists were.
And there's
John Jones is supposed to live at 187. Well, John Jones hasn't lived at 187 in 5 years to the current residents' knowledge, and all kinds of things like that.
Yes, sir.
I'm trying to really understand and appreciate your perspective, which is different from mine, on how someone not getting a mailer, especially if they're not a registered Democrat, is grounds for this kind of malfeasance that you're claiming.
These folks are registered Democrats and registered on a roll, and myself being a registered Republican, no matter which kind of list that you took, one of those would have gotten something as far as these mailers go.
Maybe.
Okay, we've got and one of the folks here on the mailers that I have here is young. She's in her 20s. One of them and the other one is in her 50s. So if you're targeting age groups, you know, we've kind of got that covered as well. That's was more my thought behind this, doing this is because again, it comes back to you know, and I agree, those lists are not they're still not 100% accurate, and we get a lot of the return mail, and you know, when they don't go. So I do agree that that does happen. So
May I ask about how many voters are in your district?
we're about 6,000 voters, or 6,000. Yeah, I would say, because I have both Fairfield and Benton now, because that's changed. That's why, you know, with these new things, it kind of throws off a little bit. But figure between mailing to go out to the mailers, households anywhere from. I myself have sent mailers out anywhere from 2,500 to you know, 5,000, depending on what we're doing, and I do get a substantial number of those back too, because the mail, you know.
And what are the total number of instances in this case in which you feel it, by not receiving the mailer, it indicated there's a problem?
I just think that there was $10,000 spent.
But how many recipients, how many registered voters, how many households are we talking about that you have brought forth saying because these people didn't get what they should have, there's a problem?
Well, I was trying to do this in a way, because I wasn't looking to cause a major problem, okay? I think that people need to be held accountable for spending taxpayer dollars. And I could certainly spend some time and go over and pull up some more people if that was something that you needed and ask. I questioned a long time before I was bringing this forward, so I didn't spend a lot of time asking, because I'm not one that will usually, you know, I try not to be somebody that's just going to try to cause trouble just for the sake of causing trouble on something like this, because it's very important.
Well,
So to be honest with you, I couldn't give you an accurate number.
we share the importance.
Yes,
What you're saying to me is indicated by your very last statement in your letter, saying you believe it has happened across the state.
I do.
On what basis?
Most of it is, I would say, is just talk more than anything. But I do, having talked to others, nobody else feels comfortable. You are right now, they haven't stepped forward, but you know, there is anecdotal, I guess, is more than anything at the moment, rather than because nobody's actually, you know, they haven't stepped forward and done this. But I do believe there is some anecdotal information out there. And I think that's why I felt that, and I usually, you know, I try to be fair. I'm sure, like you, to try to be fair to before you make any kind of accusation. So this, do your, you know, try to do a little bit of research and see. It's just one of the, I mean, a lot of times when I save these, it's just more for my own benefit to just kind of pay attention to what's going.
Sure.
But the fact that nothing that was saved for me had his name paid for by the candidate. I think that's what concerned me the most. And that's why I decided to bring this forward. I didn't do it prior to the election because there was questions about it prior to the election, because I certainly, if I had lost, didn't want it to look like it was sour grapes, because I don't, you know, that's not why I do things. And I waited, and then I decided to wait until the final ethics reports came out, because there may have been something that was a little more, you know, listed than what I had seen. So that's why I waited to file. Again, it was just trying to make sure that I felt like I was doing the right thing. I think that was my biggest thing behind that. I didn't want to do it for any other reason than what I felt was the right thing to do.
Do other commissioners have further questions? Yes, Commissioner Claire.
Representative, I'm just trying to clarify something you said. You, I think, said that you were willing to go back and ask more people whether they got this information.
I would certainly be willing to put it out there for folks to ask if they got any mailers, and ask a few more.
At what point you had how many people that you were relying on that didn't?
Right now, I have four.
4. And how soon after the mailers were mailed did you inquire those 4 individuals whether
Well-
they received the mailers?
Most of it, what I had said to them prior to, and then if you get any mailers, if you get them from me, and if you get them from my opponent, can you hang on to them and give them to me? I like to know when my own stuff is going out, so I like to make sure that I mail it and my own stuff has gone out. And I also with my opponent, and I've done this for the last couple of elections, just to see what is happening, because when you start, you don't really know what you're doing, looking at, but as this was my 3rd term, I was paying a little closer attention to some of this stuff.
Thank you. I have another question for Mr. Sezak at whatever appropriate time that is.
Sure, we'll give him a chance to talk and then
Yeah.
we ask questions. Any other questions for Representative Rudnicki? Okay, terrific, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Sezak.
Good morning. Thank you for taking the time to look into this.
Representative, you can say it in case anybody has more questions.
The mailers went out. I've provided some of the mailers with the people who they went to. I just look at this as being a frivolous complaint.
Thank you. Do any of the commissioners have questions for Mr. Sezak? Commissioner Leclerc.
Just to clarify, so having myself been an unsuccessful candidate and working, I think in the 2016 election with a candidate who sent out a number of mailers, when they went out, it was a notable event that we went to our mailboxes and checked. Did you do that, Mr. Sezak? I mean, were you looking for these mailers when you thought they were going to be coming out?
I was looking for the mailers, and I also had people save them for me. And I also have people who were going to save them for me who didn't, for one reason or another. In some instances, mailers get stuck inside some other mailer and get inadvertently thrown away. So if a person did not receive one, it doesn't mean they didn't receive it. It just mean they may not have noticed it. It's all speculation once the mailers go out.
And and just for clarification, because it may be already in, somebody already may have testified to it, or maybe in the material we've gotten, but I'm just going to ask the question because I don't see it. But is there a list of the people that these mailers were sent to, a specific list?
There probably is. I do not have those lists. I actually did ask for them from Frame, but I have not received them.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from commissioners? No. Thank you, Mr. Sezak. I want to note that on the cards, the 4 one-sided cards, I think that were provided by Mr. Sezak, the recipients all have Fairfield addresses. It's several different recipients, which would indicate to me that somebody, at least these were addressed to people in the district.
I have a question for Mr. Wayne, if I may, please. Mr. Wayne, you had received information initially. There was a vacation week involved, and you've received additional information since then. Has anything received to date changed your stance in your initial recommendation to us about taking no further action?
The staff recommendation is really sort of a team recommendation from a few of us. We compare notes and stuff. No, it doesn't change our recommendation. What happened yesterday, just to describe the additional information I got yesterday, and I really regret that I haven't worked out the ability of whether I can share this, but I came back from vacation. I looked at the agenda. I thought, what do I got to do? And I thought, oh yeah, I had that conversation with Representative Rudnicki 10 days ago by phone. And because I wanted her to be aware that the materials had been posted. So I sent her an email and then I called her. She expressed the question about the email. So I just shot off impulsively an email to Mr. Sezak saying, just so you know, this could come up at the meeting. Maybe it would be a good idea for you to check your emails and verify whether this correspondence exists. Within minutes, he said, I'll send them to you. I didn't really ask for him to send them to me, but he started forwarding email after email, which seems to be correspondence between him and Frame Media. And it's there. I understand that Representative Rudnicki has concerns about the postage statements, but let me just say that Mr. Sezak did not have time to fabricate these emails. He sent them within minutes, and they're the sort of emails that you would expect. How his district is referred to, how he's referred to as a county commissioner. I like the picture of me with the hat on in the field looking towards the Sevasticook River. The picture of me standing by the sign seems dull. You know, it's please use Palatino font, not Arial. It's sort of the kinds of specific direction you might expect. So those emails were sent to me, so they don't change my mind. And
Thank you.
yeah, sure.
Any other questions from commissioners for Mr. Wayne or other witnesses? Okay, I'll make a motion that we take no further action on this complaint because I don't believe there are sufficient grounds for believing that a violation may have occurred. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, now we can discuss it. Anybody? Yes, Commissioner Hastings.
Yes, well, I guess I can understand the initial complaint. But based on this substantial information, the postage statements from Journeyman Press, the copies of the mailings, all for Mr. Sezak, and the invoices from Frame, and now what we've just heard about emails from Frame, it's just incredible to me that anybody would if we're suggesting this was all fabricated, then we've got a conspiracy going in this state that is it's huge. This is overwhelming evidence, and what surprises me that it is not accepted as evidence that these mailings were actually sent. So I totally support this motion. Mr. Sezak, I apologize to you that you were even here personally. Thank you.
Any other comments from commissioners? Comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, it's been moved and seconded that we take no more action on this matter, and we'll take a roll call vote. Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
Commissioner Leclerc?
Yes.
Commissioner Hastings?
Yes.
Commissioner Martin?
Yes.
And I'll also vote yes. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for taking my complaint, and I'm sorry for wasting your time.
Thank you for appearing, Mr. Sezak.
Very welcome. Thank you for your time again. Appreciate it. Have a great day.
You too. Okay, we'll move on to agenda item 3. And I think we have someone appearing. Mr. Schlobom? I think you're muted.
Yes. Can you hear me okay?
I can. Was that anything near a correct pronunciation of your name?
You did pretty well. It's better than 95% of them. So that was good. Schlobom, you got it.
Okay, great. So the procedure we usually follow here, and we'll follow in this case, is to ask Mr. Wayne, the executive director, to give us factual background. And then we'll give you an opportunity to tell us your side, and then we'll make a motion and we'll decide the issue.
Perfect. Sounds great.
Mr. Wayne.
Thanks. The local chapter or branch of the AFL-CIO has a PAC, which is named the Committee on Political Education. And on October 26th, it made a contribution to another PAC, the House Democratic Campaign Committee. So it was required to file a report on October 27th, a 24-hour report to report this donation. And the donation was in the amount of $4,500. There was no 24-hour report filed at that time before the election, but as the PAC was completing its post-election report in December, it entered the transaction, and then it received some kind of prodding that it needed to file the 24-hour report. So it did file the report at that time. So the report is 54 days late. And we notified the PAC of the preliminary penalty, which is $4,860. And the PAC is asking for a reduction, explaining that there was a mix-up on the threshold that would require 24-hour report. Mr. Schlobom is able to speak to that, and also it was a very hectic time, so he didn't recognize his error. So the staff is recommending a reduction to $750, which is something of a sort of a regular minimum that we recommend for these types of violations. And I should add that Emma Burke is on the call, our PAC and lobbyist registrar, and she's available to answer any other questions you have.
Terrific. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Wayne or Ms. Burke?
No.
Okay, Mr. Schlobom.
Hi there, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to weigh in on this. I'll say a couple things. I take full responsibility for this. I'm very mad at myself. This is a foolish and dumb mistake, and one we should not have made. But Mr. Wayne described it correctly. In the hectic kind of final 2 weeks of the election season, I inverted the 24-hour reporting threshold. So when we made this $4,500 contribution, I had it mistakenly in my head that $5,000 was the amount that triggered the 24-hour reporting requirement for the giving entity, and that it was on the receiving entity to file the 24-hour report. Obviously, I had that inverted and mistaken, and that was sloppy on our part. I take full responsibility for that. Once we realized this, we immediately sought to take corrective action and notified Emma of the mistake. And I think the logic on our end for requesting a reduction is one. There was no, we certainly, it was a mistake. There was no intent to deceive or no intent to mislead in any way. Upon realizing it, we immediately took the corrective action. Secondly, the harm to the public or to other entities feels fairly minimal in the grand scheme of spending. It's not a tremendously significant amount. And I think it's fair to say I don't think the 24-hour report would have changed others' actions in any way, shape, or form. And then third, we have taken, this was a good prompt to nudge us to reflect on our overall system. So we've taken corrective actions, which I'm happy to elaborate on, just in terms of our own internal protocols to make sure this kind of sloppy error that can happen in the very kind of hectic, fast-paced last periods of an election season doesn't happen again. And I think those things would ensure we don't make this kind of mistake again. So I'm happy to answer any questions, and we'll leave my comments there.
Super, thank you. I'd like to say I personally, I appreciate your admission and the corrective actions that you've taken. I think that's great. I would differ a little bit with the harm to the public, because the way the system is set up with the 24-hour reports and a report this late means that it wasn't reported until after the election. I think that certainly could affect the actions and at least the approach of other acts and other candidates. So to me, these are serious offenses, because they deny people information until after the election that they should have had before. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? Commissioners?
I do not.
Okay, well, seeing none, I will move that we reduce the penalty to $750.
Second.
Any discussion of that? And the reason we're doing $750 is because that's become kind of the standard for a late 24-hour report penalty. So we'll take a vote. The motion is to reduce the penalty to $750. Commissioner Newman,
Yes.
Commissioner Leclerc,
Yes.
Commissioner Hastings,
Yes.
Commissioner Marvel. Yes. And I'll also vote yes. Thank you, Mr. Schwalom, for coming to help us make the decision.
Thank you. Appreciate your time and good work.
Okay, we'll move on to item 4. I think we have some changes. Good morning. Are you Ms. Stevenson? Oh, I think you're muted.
am sorry. Yes, I am.
Terrific. What we'll do here is our normal procedure that we'll follow in this case is to have Mr. Wayne give us some factual background on the complaint, and then we'll give you an opportunity to tell us what you know about it. Then we'll make a motion and we'll decide.
Okay.
Terrific. Mr. Wayne.
Great. Well, this relates to 2 contributions in the amount of $2,500 that the United Auto Workers PAC made to the Senate Democratic Campaign Committee. And those contributions were made on October 31st of last year and November 4th. Because they were in that 13-day period, they each required a 24-hour report, which weren't filed at the time. And similar to some of the other cases you've heard in December, as the PAC was completing its post-election report, it was reminded of the need to file the 24-hour reports. So they were filed in December, and they're 47 and 51 days late. So Ms. Burke notified the PAC that preliminary penalties were $2,550 and $2,350, and the PAC is here to ask for a waiver. And Ms. Stevenson can speak to how the error occurred. Our staff recommendation was to assess a total penalty of $1,000. You know, in the past, this isn't a science, but in the past, some commissioners have been creative in reaching a result that felt correct when there's like a common error, an error that results in 2 different violations around the same time. Sometimes that has involved adjusting the percentage in the formula, keeping it at 2% rather than increasing to 4%. So that might be appropriate here. And that even though there are 2 violations, we were recommending not 1,500, but rather 1,000 because they seem to be part of the same error.
And I have a question. Is that going to mess up the precedents for the future?
Well, I don't personally feel that it would. I mean, we're not, we provide lists of these to you, but we're not terribly rigid about them. And I think it's more important to reach the right result in each case. So I think the harm is minimal in that regard.
Okay.
That's how I feel.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate it. Any other commissioners have questions for Mr. Wayne? Okay, seeing none, Ms. Stevenson. Is it Stevenson?
Stevenson, yeah. I'm sorry. Weir is my maiden name. That's what comes up on the Zoom account. I mean, honestly, it was an honest mistake. I, for some reason in my mind, thought it was contributions to candidates, not just a general contribution. And the Maine PAC really doesn't make a lot of contributions. This is probably the first year we've done a lot of contributions, and that was actually a total of 4 checks. So I just, honest mistake that I didn't file it. I wasn't intentionally trying to, not report it or anything. And when I did I think it was the 42-day report, that's when Emma called and was like, hey, did you realize it triggered the 24-hour report, which then that's when I realized that I screwed up and didn't file it.
Terrific. Well,
It's just an honest mistake. It wasn't.
yep. No, I appreciate your admission and stepping up to the plate. I think that's fine and outstanding. Does any commissioners have questions for Ms. Stevenson?
Just so I think it's like, I'm imagining you have a lot of responsibilities. I'm imagining that election times are hectic. And as you said, you hadn't done a lot of donations in Maine before. Did I hear that correctly? Or at least a Maine
Yeah,
fact?
we did 4 checks, but I mean, I'm responsible, like our region for the UAW covers all of New England. So I'm doing all the packs for every state.
Okay. And I think we'll all acknowledge that there are a lot of rules and dates here. We get that. But my question is simply this. In hindsight, do you feel that you lacked any guidance that would have helped you make the right decision?
I mean, honestly, I can't remember. I mean, Emma's really good about sending postcards, but I for some reason just was thinking it was contributions to candidates, not just any contribution.
Okay.
Terrific.
Thank you.
Any other commissioners have questions? Okay, seeing none, I'll make a motion that we reduce the penalties for both offenses to $1,000 total.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Do we need to split them up? Or can we vote on them as one?
I don't see why you couldn't make a single motion that covers both penalties if you want to do it that way.
Mr. Bolton believes we can, but thank you for bringing it up. Any other questions or comments from commissioners? Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we reduce the penalties to a total of $1,000. Commissioner Newman,
Yes.
Commissioner Hastings,
Yes.
Commissioner Leclerc,
Yes.
Commissioner Marble? Yes. And I'll vote yes as well. Thank you, Ms. Stevenson, for coming and helping us make the decision.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Move on to agenda item 5, and I think Senator Lawrence is, or no, this is a Clean Election Act review. Ms. Burke, are you doing this for us? Oh, no, she's going.
No, sir.
Oh, son of a gun. You sat through all this just to
Dad,
get to
it's my moment.
I bet.
We now over apt attention.
Yes. Exactly.
We discussed it earlier. Morning. Erin Gordon, candidate registrar. I am going to go over for you this morning some MCEA participation numbers for the past year. I can certainly briefly touch on some trends, talk about political caucus participation, and then once I have done that and answered any questions that you might have about the program, I'll hand it over to our good director, who is going to have some other numbers for you.
Terrific. Thank you.
So following every election year, we in December and January assemble these overviews for the DLA for Jonathan to present to them so that they can see sort of where participation numbers are and how the program spending is. In 2022, there were a total of 359 candidates in the general election for the legislature, and of those, 214 participated as MCEA candidates, which is a participation rate of 60%. That's up from both 2020 and 2018. 2020, I would just like to call out, was an outlier year in terms, well, for many reasons.
I was just going to.
But the participation rate is misleading. That 55%, it represents a much smaller number of total candidates in 2020 than there were in 2018 and 2022. So we could extrapolate some numbers, and I might do that with some of my spare time this week, but I don't have that for you. But I think the participation rate
we can see it's holding relatively steady.
Yep.
The program continues to be a viable option for candidates, just in terms of making them competitive. Of the legislators elected to the 131st legislature, 62% of those were MCEA participants. Overall, it continues to be a program that is used by the majority of Democratic candidates for the legislature. We see a general trend upward for Republican candidates, but it still remains less utilized, especially on the House level by Republican candidates. That is the bottom portion of that first sheet you have, and you can see that we've got percentages and then we've got some numbers in parentheses, and those parentheticals represent the number of candidates. So 48 out of 137 Republican candidates for the House used the program. And it's used by the overwhelming majority of Senate candidates. It tends to be a little bit more scattered among House candidates as far as participation goes. It was a gubernatorial year. I finished most of my coffee. It was a gubernatorial year, but we didn't have any successful MCEA participants this year. Both major party candidates used traditional financing, and so we did not have that addition to the program this past year. Total payments for MCEA candidates, the program was more expensive this year than it was any previous year, which is to be expected. We adjust the payment amounts according to the consumer price index every 2 years. So unless participation rates drop significantly, we are going to continue to see an upward trend of how much the program costs. And generally, we are seeing, I would say, I only have, so that on your second page, that bottom portion talks about, it is meant to demonstrate how many candidates qualified for how many supplemental payments. Many candidates, especially at the House level, there's still a good chunk of candidates that are satisfied with the basic level of funding. The number of candidates that max out, as we say, get all 8 supplemental payments is a little bit increased this year over 2020 and 2018, but not significantly. When I looked at these numbers compared to earlier election years, 2020 and 2018, although I don't have that on this sheet for you, what mostly we are seeing is a little bit of an upward trend in the middle ranges of those supplemental payments. So candidates are tending to, more candidates might go for 5 payments instead of 4. And there certainly were, you know, I can tell you anecdotally, after speaking to candidates, many candidates said, oh, I need to make sure I get, you know, an extra supplemental payment because things are so much more expensive this year. So that's that was certainly a factor this past election. The last number that I have for you, and then you can ask me questions if you have them, were so candidates are required, of course, to submit qualifying contributions in order to qualify for the program, and then again to qualify for further supplemental payments. For the entire 2022 election cycle, we as an agency, and that we is the 2 candidate registrars, myself and Lori Brand, and prior to that, Emma Burke, we evaluated 49,500 qualifying contributions individually. We discussed in the past that it's a very individual process. We look at each one of those. And the majority of those were before that initial April 20th certification deadline. Over 29,000 were prior to that April deadline. So
that's amazing.
It would have been even higher had there been successful gubernatorial candidates. So those are the numbers that I have for you.
Terrific. Anybody have any questions for? Yes.
I would be interested, not this morning necessarily, in one different analysis. I'm looking on page 2 in the bottom section about how many candidates are trying to take advantage of multiple payments. And I'm just wondering if there's any correlation with those numbers and the fluctuation in experienced candidates. You know, if someone's run 3 times and they've got the system down, I would think they might be more likely to go for more QCs and more supplemental payments. It's just curiosity.
That would be interesting. We can look into that.
Any other questions or comments for this board?
Just to say thank you so much for putting this together. This is
Yep.
really
Well, and for
interesting and
keeping this
informative.
thing, all these balls in the air.
Like I said, it's a team effort. It's not just me, it's Lori Brand, and Emma Burke, of course, has been doing this for many years and was still in the candidate registrar position at the beginning of the year before she transitioned out and Lori took over.
We appreciate it. We really do. That's great.
Thank you.
Mr. Wayne, did you have?
Well, I think one commissioner, at least, I don't remember, who had some interest in the revenue to the Maine Clean Election Fund. How is this paid for? So that's the next page. The largest source of, I'll just run through this quickly and let me just mention, these are fiscal years, which end on June 30th. These are not calendar years. The largest source of revenue to the Maine Clean Election Fund, which is a special, it's called special revenue account. It's set aside in law for this particular purpose. The largest source of revenue is an annual transfer from the general fund in the amount of $3 million. Sorry, I'm just getting over a cold.
I can tell.
Yeah. And there was no transfer in fiscal year 2019 because we asked for the money earlier in fiscal year 2018 to make sure there was no shortfall.
Right.
Let me just add, this program was set up by a citizen initiative in 1996. The vote, about 60% of the voters approved this, and the sources of revenue have largely stayed the same since then. And then, due to some court decisions, the program was really cut back around 2010 or 2011.
With respect to matching funds and stuff like that.
Right. There used to be a component where candidates would be on the same level and independent expenditures would be taken into account, and the US Supreme Court determined with respect to Arizona's program, which is very similar to ours, that was not allowed.
Right.
So there was an effort by the advocates for this program to put together a citizen initiative in 2015, which some of you may remember, and that was intended to revamp the program so that candidates could start to receive these supplemental payments to reach the level of funding that they wanted to reach. And it also was sort of a revamping of the gubernatorial program, part of the program as well. And as part of that citizen initiative, the annual transfer went from 2 million to 3 million. So voters actually, a majority of voters, 60%, approved the increase in the annual transfer to 3 million. I think that might even have been in the language that was distributed. I think that.
Oh, I bet it was.
Yeah. So the other largest sources of revenue are a taxpayer checkoff that some of us use when we're filling out our taxes. That diverts $3 of your tax payment from the general fund to the Maine Clean Election Fund. So that's also kind of a transfer from the general fund. It reduces general fund revenue and increases revenue to this fund. When the candidates turn in the qualifying contributions to us, that results in additional revenue. That's one of the sort of the few outside government sources that we receive. And then the fund also receives interest. There's a little bit of civil penalty income as well. And then there's some miscellaneous things as well. So those are the highlights of how this program is funded.
Where do the civil penalties come from?
Those are violations of the Maine Clean Election Act, where somebody when somebody does something wrong in terms of not keeping the right records or a massive underreporting or a misuse. Those are rare, but those penalties go into this account. And then the late filing penalties by candidates of any, no matter how they're financed, those get deposited here. It's a little bit of a confusing system where the different penalties for different violations go into different funds. But
That's what I was wondering. But these are the penalties that we assess.
Oh, yes, yeah, I'm sorry, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. But then some of the penalties you assess go to the general fund, some of them go into other funds, so,
Just to make the accounting even.
right. Yeah, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that the commissioners have.
Any questions or comments from commissioners? Yes, Commissioner Leclerc.
I'm not a good money person, but I just have to ask the question. So in 2022, the commission had income of $3,336,989, and spent for over 4 million. I just wanted to.
No, that's a great question.
Yeah.
No, that's a really
Is it a
fundamental.
great question?
It is, no,
It is,
that's
it is.
part of fundamental design of the program is there's money, we operate for the legislative payments on a 2-year election cycle. And for the candidates for governor, it's a 4-year election cycle. So the way the program was designed by the advocates and the way it was instituted is that money builds up over time. So the 4 million the 4.5 million that we paid to the candidates in 2022, that was based on previous transfers of 3 million. It's so the 3 million that we got at the beginning of 2021 and the 3 million that we got at beginning of 2022, those both contributed to paying the candidates. So that's why the numbers work out that way. Yeah.
Do we know what's remaining in the fund?
What our current balance is?
Yeah.
The balance is what I would call fairly high right now. I think it's around $5 million.
Oh, wow.
And when the state is when there are shortfalls in the overall state budget, the legislature has asked this commission how much money is not needed in the fund in the short term.
Mhm.
And some of you who are former legislators are familiar with this. The money is swept out to be used for other purposes.
Yep.
So it's not going to build up indefinitely. We just happen to have more than usual right now. But that's a good thing in case we're paying. We've got 2 legislative elections coming up in the next 2 election cycles, and we have candidates for governor to pay. So it looks like a lot now, but in the long run, it may not be that much.
Yep, sure,
Yeah.
sure. Any other questions or comments? Commissioner Leclerc, another great.
One other weird question. The taxpayer checkoff, how many, we have 139,000 in 2022. How many people are doing that checkoff? Can you tell from that or?
Divide that by 3.
I think the answer.
Well, I did, and it's a fairly significant number. It's well over 400,000. So I just find that interesting. I wanted to know if that was correct.
No, divide the 165 by 3.
No.
No, that's the taxpayer checkup. Divide the 139 by 3.
Yeah.
I think it's more like 40,000.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, maybe there's a decimal.
Yes, maybe there is.
From experience, how we see that is.
Oh, yes, I see that you're correct.
This could be an effect of the motel room syndrome.
Yeah.
Widely
No.
respected across the country as having deleterious mathematical consequences.
No, I'll take responsibility for my lack of math skills. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions or thoughts from commissioners? Well, Ms. Gordon, I just want to thank you again because it's a Herculean task that you did on. I really appreciate it.
Our pleasure.
So moving on to agenda item 6. This is a reconsideration of the penalty that we assessed last time on Senator Lawrence's campaign. I think Senator Lawrence, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Outstanding. How are you this morning?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have Mr. Wayne kind of give us a factual background, and then we'll ask you to chime in, and then we'll make a motion and decide the question. Mr. Wayne?
Sure. So Senator Lawrence is here to ask for a penalty that you assessed at your last meeting to be reconsidered, and the staff is supportive. So I just thought I would run through a few details to show why we support the request. So before the general election on November 2nd, Senator Lawrence's campaign filed a 24-hour report for an expenditure of $5,000 to Ericsson Communications, and the date of that expenditure was reported to be October 31st. And we found that the report was 1 day late at the staff level, so we notified the campaign that there was a $100 penalty for that report being 1 day late, and the campaign paid the penalty and did not ask a waiver, so it never came before you. And then when the campaign was filing its post-election report in December, it entered into our e-filing system a second $5,000 payment to Ericsson Communications that had a different expenditure date of November 2nd. And the campaign went ahead and filed a second 24-hour report for that second reported payment. And at the staff level, we just assumed 2 payments were reported in the amount of $5,000, 2 payments were made. And so we notified the campaign that there was the second 24-hour report was 48 days late, and the preliminary penalty would be $5,000. And you considered a waiver request at your last meeting and decided to assess a $500 penalty. So that's how things stood after, at the end of last meeting. And then later in the day, Senator Lawrence contacted our office and reported that he had compared the transactions in his bank account to the transactions that were reported by his campaign. And his determination was that the campaign had made an error in reporting the second $5,000 payment. That in fact, he reported to us there was only one $5,000 payment. It was accidentally reported twice. And he was kind enough to provide us with some bank statements. And we were able to confirm that he was right. And I have the bank statements here. There was only one payment to the vendor, and it cleared the account on November 2nd. So one payment, it appears that one report was late. He has paid a $100 penalty for that late report. So from our point of view, the request to reconsider the $500 penalty seems appropriate.
Great, terrific. Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Wayne? Commissioners? Okay, Senator Lawrence,
Yes,
feel free to chime in.
nope, I think Jonathan covered it exactly right.
Terrific, thank you. So I will move that we reconsider the $500 penalty that we imposed at the last meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. We can have discussion if anyone wishes. Not seeing any, I'll move to a vote. This is to reconsider the penalty. Commissioner Newman,
Yes.
Commissioner Hastings,
Yes.
Commissioner Leclerc,
Yes.
Commissioner Marable, yes, and I'll vote yes as well. Now I'll move that we assess no penalty because no infraction was committed. Is there a second to that? Second. Anyone like to discuss that?
I just wonder, procedurally, it sounds like Senator Lawrence his campaign had not yet paid that penalty, so there's not a kind of a refund that needs to happen, correct?
I think that's right. Is that right, Senator Lawrence?
Yes, we did not make it. We filed the appeal in between the deadline.
Yep. So this all operates on paper and will remove the requirement that Senator Lawrence's campaign paid.
Great, thanks for that clarification.
Commissioner Leclerc.
Following up on Commissioner Newman, should we be talking about the fact there was no violation as opposed to we're not going to assess a penalty? Or
Yeah, I'll change my motion to say that there was no violation and there should be no penalty.
Okay.
Is there a second?
Thanks for second that.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's an important clarification. Thanks, Commissioner Leclerc.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions or thoughts? Okay, seeing none, it's been moved and seconded that we determined that there was no offense and that no penalty should be imposed. Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
Commissioner Hastings?
Yes.
Commissioner Leclerc?
Yes.
Commissioner Marble? Yes. And I'll vote yes as well. Correct. Thank you, Senator Lawrence, for helping us through that.
You're welcome.
We have one further item that I believe is best handled or at least discussed in executive session. And so I will move that pursuant to Title I of the Maine Revised Statutes, Section 405, Paragraph 4, I move that we go into executive session pursuant to Title I, Sections 405, Paragraph 6, Paragraph Alpha and Foxtrot, A and F, and Section 1005 to discuss an investigation of potential violations of the Maine Clean Election Act and information contained in records made, maintained, or received by the commission, which are confidential pursuant to Title 21A, Section 1003, Paragraph 3A. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Okay, I'll move to a vote. Commissioner Newman,
Yes.
Commissioner Hastings,
Yes.
Commissioner Leclerc,
Yes.
Commissioner Marvin.
Yes.
I'll vote yes as well. So we'll move into executive session.
You know, an audio, and I'm gonna start the
These
recording.
Okay, so we're coming. Look at that. Come on,
That's fine.
baby.
More deliberation. That's fine. I don't think I'll need it, but okay, thank you for.
There. Amazing. Commissioner Newman, I think you're muted.
I'm unmuted because I have a little friend with me that's.
Oh. Finally, we have some adult supervision.
That's right, exactly. You can say hi, Coco. Okay.
Hi.
Commissioner baby.
That's right, that's right. You say hi.
Hi.
You don't even know it, but you, yeah. They were some of the first people that ever met you on Zoom, Coco.
That's right. First birthday yesterday, right?
That's right, yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
She's a good girl.
Yes.
This is the way I'll go back on mute for a minute, but I'm gonna give her to my husband.
Oh, that's adorable. All right. So having voted to come out of executive session and return to public session, I would like to make a motion that pursuant to Title 21A, Section 1003, Paragraph 1, I move that the commission authorize department staff to investigate the campaign finances of a 2022 Maine Clean Election Act candidate, including unauthorized charges to the campaign account, unreported transactions, and any other non-compliance arising out of the campaign, and direct department staff not to disclose investigative working papers that are confidential under Title 21A, Section 1003, Paragraph 3A. Second. We can have a discussion kind of happened by the requirements of confidentiality, if anyone wants to discuss this. No? Okay, we'll move directly to a vote then. Commissioner Newman,
Yes.
Commissioner Leclerc,
Yes.
Commissioner Hastings,
Yes.
Commissioner Martin. Yes. And I'll vote yes as well. Perfect. So we have marching orders. Thank you. Any other business to come before the commission?
Here, I'll turn on my video. Commissioner Schneider, I know that via email that you had authorized PAC balance transactions to be made. And I know that you perhaps had mentioned that being shared with the other commissioners.
You were kind of breaking up and I couldn't follow.
I apologize. You had authorized me to do some balance adjustments for PACs that were larger than we typically do. And I know it had been mentioned that it should be shared at an upcoming meeting.
Right. Yes, I appreciate that. I did, and I wanted you to let the other commissioners know what was going on.
Yeah, so essentially the goal, I have a project going right now with the new.
Something's wrong with the audio.
I think it's a, tell her to use her computer audio.
Okay, maybe you can use your computer audio and not the headset.
Yeah, give me one sec.
Sure.
Is that better?
That's
Yeah.
much better.
That's much
Okay.
better.
I think my headset is it's slightly broken. So I am doing a project right now with the new laws going into effect that affect PACs and business entity funds that I'm attempting to get every single PAC to make sure that their reporting balance as of December 31st, 2022 exactly matches the amount they had in their bank account for December 31st, 2022. Most PACs are really good about being exact. But some PACs have also let some balance discrepancies go for sometimes years. And because they are allowed to spend 2022 funds different or previous funds differently than they can spend funds raised in 2023 or after, both the PAC and I need to know where they're at. So all PACs have been notified that they need to check their balances and inform me if their reporting balances match their bank accounts as of December 31st, 22. The good news is that the majority of PACs do match. I have done a number of staff balance transactions where I go in and basically put in a vague or blank contribution or expenditure to make their reporting balance match their bank account balance. In the past, the commission has said that anything that was under 1,000 I could do of my own volition. It did come to pass that 2 PACs did need balance adjustments of more than $1,000. We emailed Commissioner Schneider, Chair Schneider, about that, and he agreed that it would be okay in these 2 instances to let me do that. I'm happy to share the name and amounts if you are interested, but just wanted to keep you updated that I have been doing that.
Yeah, please go ahead and share the more specific information.
Sure. So the 2 PACs that I changed over $1,000. The first one was the Maine College Republicans. They had a reported balance, and that they actually did do some amending themselves. So initially their balance was off by close to $5,000. They did do a lot of amending themselves and brought their reported balance to $7,546.93. However, their actual bank account balance was $6,145.90. So that was a difference of about $1,400 lower. So they had less money than they had reported. So I put in a balance transaction for them, a balance adjusting transaction for them. So they now show a reported balance of that $6,145.90. The other PAC I have made a large change to was the UA local number 716 PAC. They had reported $2,357.07 as their balance. Balance is actually $3,866.81. So again, that was a difference of about $1,500, which I adjusted for them. They actually had more money in their account than they had reported. From my understanding, talking to both of these PACs, that because they're organization-based PACs, there can be a lot of turnover, and the people responsible for filing for them as people leave jobs and positions. So in this instance, I believe in both of them, these went back over 5 years. These balances have been wrong for over 5 years. And so for the current person in the treasurer principal officer position, it was extremely difficult for them to try to go back and figure out what happened, 2-3 people ago, years ago. So that is why I think that was part of the reason Commissioner Schneider approved me to make those changes. But that is where we are at right now. There's a few PACs who I have another pack right now that is significantly off that is working on fixing it. And I'm also waiting to hear back from probably about 30 to 40 packs confirming their balances.
That's a tremendous project and I really appreciate you taking it on. And it's important that the accounting works out, you know, that the kind of the credibility of the whole system is weakened by poor accounting by the participants. So I think it's really important what you're doing and I appreciate it.
Yes, of course. And, you know, I'm changing some pack balances by cents, but just because those funds, they can contribute to candidates and leadership packs without them being considered business funds. We have to know exactly where their pre-2023 funds cut off. So that's my goal.
Yep. Any questions or comments from commissioners?
Just a lot of good work and thank you and keep it up.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
Amen. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for the report.
Of course.
You're exactly right that, you know, I looked at the information you gave me and it appeared that these have been long-standing issues and that there was no chance of making them any better without an adjustment like that. So.
No, and where I still have hear from a number of folks, I think we'll just continue with this, that if there's larger adjustments need to be made, we'll check with you, and then at the next meeting, I can give an update.
Okay, that sounds terrific.
Okay.
Great. All right, anybody want to make a motion that never fails?
So moved.
I'll second that. And there's no debate allowed on the so Commissioner Newman,
Yes.
Commissioner Leclerc,
Yes.
Commissioner Hastings,
Yes.
Commissioner Marvel,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes too. Thank you, everybody.
Safe driving.
Yeah,
Great to see everyone. Take care.
likewise. Be careful.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.